I'm going to give you 3 examples of patients who really feel that their symptoms are due to a structural element, either one they've been told about or one they're conceptualising as someone hasn't found it yet. So they think they've got a structural issue, and this is a video to describe how fear or frustration about that situation stops them seeing the truth. So fear and frustration are totally natural and come with persistent pain or a persistent symptom linked to a chronic condition. I'm going to give you 3 examples of how that filter that people view those symptoms through, based on a belief that there's a structural element, stops them seeing what's actually going on. Hi, my name's Drew. I'm a physiotherapist in the UK and I help people with persistent pain, chronic pain, reverse the process to see that it's the habitual patterns around their thoughts and behaviours and actions that are actually driving the pain that they can reverse. If you're interested in this or other similar content, then click on the like or subscribe and you can stay up to date with similar videos and maybe help you or your patients reverse their pain. So here's the first example. We've all got structural things in our body that are totally symptom free. There may have been pain at the time those things happened. The body heals within about 3 months. You can be left with scars. You can find things on scans and investigations that are there that have never been symptomatic at all. If they're pointed out to us, that means that someone can believe that that physical thing, structural thing that's been found is the cause of the symptoms, and that can become a belief if it's told to you by somebody with authority. A white coat, a doctor or a nurse or a physio with evidence of scans and x-rays. So there's the premise for this. If they don't find anything, then often there's a fear that someone's missed something structural. So this is all based on structural. I'm going to give you 3 examples of how you can change the logic once you can get through the filter of fear and frustration to get someone to see that they're missing the logic behind their understanding of what's happening to them. So here's the first one. This is a lady who had a plantar fasciitis, like heel pain. If you're not familiar with that, it's pain in the bottom of the heel. It comes with walking or getting up in the morning. It's painful the first few steps, it might get a bit easier, or it's painful all the time. And this was one of the symptoms the lady had who had fibromyalgia. It was my fibros flared up, and she had other symptoms that actually responded well to treatment, but the foot pain never changed. And she would justify that saying, well, yeah, but it's structural. There's a structural thing there. It's my weight, it's my height, it's my fibro, it's my age, it's my wear and tear, or whatever the beliefs were around that. And yet, the same beliefs were there for another part of the body that she'd actually now started to break the pattern. Oh yeah, but this is my fibro. But every pain has different contexts, and sometimes the strength of the belief of one thing is stronger than another. So each pain has to be addressed in its own context. And when you're walking a lot and you're getting constant stimulus like she was, it's harder to get a break in the pattern. It's a bit like if someone has a food disorder, eating disorder, you've got to eat every day. So that means that they can be quite hard nuts to crack. But listen for the second example and I'll explain what we did with that person. And I'm not kind of dealing with people who have food problems, but it was an additional thing that mentioned. So this lady, for probably couple of months, did well with other things, but still had this plantar fascia pain. Then she came and mentioned that she didn't have pain in the foot, and she was puzzled why. And she'd walked about 1.5 miles, and this 1.5 mile walk was a walk she'd done before, and it would always be painful. And on this one day, it didn't hurt. And on this day, she was walking with a particular person who she liked. They were chatting. She'd recently finished a course and she'd been very stressed about this course, and it was over, and she walked 1.5 miles, had no pain at all. So that illustrates to her that she can do exactly the same physical things that she thought contributed to the pain. She had the same weight, same height, same fibro, same age, same wear and tear, and no pain. So all of those beliefs saying that justified her keeping the pain actually really don't stand up, because all of those things were present and she didn't have the pain. So it's the tiniest chink, 1 out of 60 days that it just happened. That's the moment where you can say, actually, those beliefs you've had, and they're not unreasonable ones, they're not true. Notice how you felt on that walk, and can we access those feelings without those other people present? And if we can, we'll reverse that pain too. The second example is a gentleman I've seen for knee pain and shoulder pain who understands the concept totally and actually recovered quite well. But at the time, about 18 months ago, he was also suffering from some indigestion and abdominal symptoms. And I can't clarify for him categorically, because that's not my profession. But he went through all the gamut of tests. The doctors fully investigated him, investigations, no sinister cause at all, no active treatment other than some omeprazole or some Reni, and he actually was on some antidepressants too. So they more or less suggested to him it was anxiety driven. So he was fixed on the idea that his symptoms were due to hiatus hernia, and he was aware that he'd responded well to physical treatment. He said, would I help him with that? And from my scope of practice, all I can do really is reinforce some of the calming mechanisms that you can do, but I agreed just to help him where I could with that, to see if it did have influence over his acid reflux, if you like, that eating and bloatedness that came with it. So he's getting recurrent episodes of irritation every day with eating, and anxiety about eating, and worried about it, and he'd feel it physically, and he'd say, yeah, but it feels like it's just there, it's a hiatus hernia, and I've seen it. I said, I bet you've looked at it at Google. I said, I don't know what one looks like, but I bet you do. And oh yeah, I have. He said, but it puzzled me because he's never there when I'm on holiday. So this structural thing that's causing all this trouble isn't there on holiday. I said, where does the hiatus hernia go on holiday? And we laughed, because it doesn't, the argument falls apart. He's eating the same plates of food on holiday, and the portions and the sizes of it that he thought was the problem, he's eating them on holiday. The hiatus hernia that he has at home is there on holiday, and yet he doesn't have the symptoms. So it can't be the hiatus hernia on its own, because that's there all the time. And if you can be, if you can be symptom free with the hiatus hernia, it's not the hiatus hernia. And when you change that belief, it really is hard for the person to go home and keep on arguing with themselves when they've been shown that it's not true, can't be true. Because if you're an intelligent thinker, it's hard really to deny that truth. And the last one is a lady who had a head pain, cervical pain, and had it for over a year or so. It's a lovely lady, and it's linked to, it appears to be linked to grief and the need to be busy and be active and doing and going. But she believes there's a structural thing that's must be something there, maybe something sinister, maybe something structural, but there's no evidence for that at all. And she's a healthy lady, and she gets a gap in the symptoms too, and this gap comes when she feeds the birds or the hedgehog in the garden. So I said to her that if there's something structural behind all this, it would be there all the time, and it'd be there when you're feeding the birds and the hedgehog. And she ponders on that, and yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? So these are all almost moments of truth that you're seeing if you can show people, and maybe you can see in your own experience that if you can question your own beliefs and really look at them with some clarity and say, well, actually, no, that can't be the way forward, can't be, then you can start to notice the patterns of behaviour that come on those beliefs, and you actually start to change them. They'll fall away if you change the belief. They'll fall away themselves. It doesn't always happen immediately, but sometimes it can be really quick. But there's just 3 examples of how fear and frustration stop people from seeing the truth of their situation, shining a light on them, and let them see the logic of what they are saying and realise that maybe it isn't consistent enough to be true. And then it opens the door for them to question whether they're going to keep those beliefs or consider other possibilities for their pain and other routes out of it.